morning, everyone. My name is Guion Foreman, president of the Chicago Police Board, and I am calling the board's September 23rd public meeting to order. As we begin this evening's meeting, I would like to first say that I had the honor of attending a ceremony, a very special ceremony at public safety headquarters earlier this week, where 4 police officers' stars were retired. Officers Clifford Martin, Officer Marco DeFranco, Officer Titus Moore, and Officer Ronald Newman all died in the line of duty last year and had their stars retired earlier this week. I had an opportunity to meet some of their co-workers and some of their family members, and it was a very moving ceremony, and their courage and commitment to serving the people of Chicago will always be remembered and appreciated. So I would like us to start the meeting with a moment of silence. Thank you. To protect the public's health in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting is taking place remotely. Pursuant to the Illinois Open Meetings Act, I have determined that holding this meeting in person is not practical nor prudent. The city of Chicago remains subject to the governor's disaster proclamation due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and the surge in COVID-19 cases due to the Delta variant continues. We are therefore having this meeting remotely this month. This meeting is open to the public via audio conference and is being carried live by CAN TV. Those participating by phone are on mute in order to reduce background noise and disruptions. We have a court reporter making a transcript of this meeting. I will begin by taking attendance so it is clear who is participating in this meeting. Please say here after I read your name. Police Board Vice President Paula Wolf.
Here.
Board Member Nanette Doorley. Nanette? All right, I'll come back. Board Member Michael Eady.
Here.
Board Member Steve Flores.
Here.
Board Member Jorge Montes.
Here.
Board Member Andrea Zopp. We're having a little technical difficulties. I can see Andrea and I can see Nanette. I can't hear them. First Deputy, hold on, I'm getting out of order a little bit. Interim Chief Administrator of the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, Andrea Kirsten.
Here.
Deputy Inspector General for Public Safety, Deborah Witzberg.
Here.
Deputy Chief of Chicago Police Department's Bureau of Internal Affairs, Michelle Rubino.
Here.
Chief of the Department of Detectives, Brendan Denahan.
Here.
Deputy Chief of the Chicago Police Department's Bureau of Patrol, Larry Snelling.
Here.
General Counsel to the Superintendent, Dana O'Malley.
Here.
Executive Director, Max Caproni.
Here.
And First Deputy.
Here.
All right, let's see. And Andrea Zopp. Andy, can you hear me? Okay, I will attest that Andrea is here, and hopefully we can clear up the technical difficulties.
And President Foreman, I think Board Member Doorley may have unmuted herself, so she may be able to say she's here now.
Okay, Nanette Doorley. All right, but I can attest that she's here, so we'll circle back. We'll circle back just to ensure. This is part of what we have to deal with in the Zoom world these days. We will now proceed to the items on the meeting agenda. We'll have time at the end of the meeting for public comments. Once again, those participating by phone are currently on mute in order to reduce background noise and disruptions. When we get to the public comment portion of the meeting, we will unmute each speaker. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the board's July 15th regular public meeting?
There is a motion, but before I make the motion, this is Paula Wolf. I would like to wish our President, Guion Foreman, a happy birthday.
Thank you.
and Pastor Edie a happy day before his birthday, and thank them both for spending this important time with us and not celebrating their aging. So I will make a motion.
Thank you very much. Is there a second? That's a motion. That's a motion for the minutes, not a,
Yes, I'm sorry.
motion for the birthday.
We can have it an all-encompassing motion. No, a motion for the minutes.
Is there a
This is
second?
Board Member Flores, I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. The next regular public meeting will be held. I don't have the Max, I'm sorry, my notes are incorrect. The next public meeting will be held on Thursday, October 21st at 7:30 p.m. Whether this meeting will be in person or a remote meeting will be determined closer to the meeting date. Is there a motion to close a series of executive sessions for the purposes of considering personnel matters and litigation as authorized by sections 2C, 1, 3, 4, and 11 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act?
This is Paula Wolf. I so move.
Board Member Flores, I second.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. A report of disciplinary actions taken by the board during the previous month has been made available on the board's website. There is one disciplinary case on the agenda this evening. The police board is authorized by the Open Meetings Act as considered in a closed meeting, one disciplinary case. The board will now take final action on this case. Regarding case number 20-PB2980, the superintendent filed charges against Detective Jason Villarreal, recommending that he be discharged from the Chicago Police Department for conduct unbecoming an officer while on duty. The superintendent subsequently moved to withdraw these charges because the parties agreed to settle the case and have the superintendent suspend Detective Villarreal for 180 days. Is there a motion to approve the settlement agreement and grant the superintendent's motion?
Paula Wolf, so moved.
Board Member Flores, I second.
I will now call on members of the board for their vote. Wolf,
Aye.
Doorley. If you have the ability, Nanette, because we're having technical difficulties, if you have the ability to type your answer, and I'll read it out loud. Edie.
Aye.
Flores.
Aye.
Montez.
Aye.
Zop.
Aye.
And I vote in favor of the motion. Voting in favor are board members Wolf, Doorley, Edie, Flores, Montez, Zop, and myself. The motion passes by a vote of 7-0. Is there a motion to adopt the written memorandum and order that has been reviewed by all board members who participated in the case?
Paula Wolf, so moved.
Board Member Flores, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. The written decision in the case on which the board took final action this evening will be entered as of today's date, sent to the parties, then posted on the board's website. The general orders and other directives issued by the superintendent during the previous month are posted on the police department's website. Now, First Deputy, I will ask if you would like to provide the superintendent's report.
Yes, good evening. Thank you. Right now, just before joining you tonight, CPD and CPS announced at a press conference at Simeon Career Academy the arrest of an 18-year-old man who used the internet and social media to spread threats of fear and confusion in several high schools across the city. As we speak, the offender, who was arrested in South Suburbs, is being questioned by Area 2 detectives, and we expect charges to be filed soon. Our detectives across the city have been doing an outstanding job so far this year. CPD has cleared 260 homicides. We are well ahead of last year's pace when we cleared more homicides in a single year than we had a decade and a half. Our overall clearance rate so far in 2021 is 45%. We are also on a record-setting pace to take guns off the streets of Chicago. Currently, we have recovered 9,093 guns. That's a 17.3% increase over last year at the same time. We have also made significant progress toward the uptick in vehicular hijacking with over 1,007 arrests for carjacking-related offenses. We doubled our vehicular hijacking task force from 40 officers to 80. That was just done back in the latter part of August and early part of September. So on September 11th, officers arrested a 58-year-old male in connection with a carjacking that occurred on July 15th in the 7800 block of South Ingleside. The offender, named John Ray, has now been charged with 1 count of aggravated vehicular hijacking with a firearm in connection with that incident. On September 10th, officers arrested a 17-year-old male in connection with a carjacking that occurred in the 200 block of West 22nd Place. 2 days earlier, on September 8th, that same juvenile has now been charged with 1 count of vehicular hijacking and in connection with that incident. He also faces additional charges of possession of a stolen motor vehicle in connection with the separate carjacking that took place on July 14th. Lastly, we held a town hall just prior to this police board meeting with Simeon High School family members to express our condolences and offer our support to the school, which lost 2 students to a gun violence incident this week. During the town hall, we provided an overview of the investigation and discussed our deployment of personnel to secure the area, along with the additional threats that we received throughout the internet or over the internet at several other Chicago high schools. We've put in a mitigation plan to assure the parents and CPS of our unwavering support to carry on for the next couple of weeks, and it's constantly will be reevaluated should we need to continue on further, or if we need to, or if we're able to discontinue the deployment earlier, we will. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chairman.
Thank you, First Deputy. Now, Chief Administrator Kirsten, if you would like to give your report.
Thank you, President Foreman. Yes, on behalf of the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, I appreciate the opportunity to update our community as to the events that took place in August at our agency. Particularly, I'll start with some statistical information. COPA received 450 complaints and notifications relative to officer conduct. Of those, 111 of them are cases that will remain under COPA's jurisdiction. And as I report out on every month, the continued highest number or type of those cases is allegations of improper Fourth Amendment search and seizure allegations. With our statistical report out as well, I would like to report that of the cases that we closed in the month of August, 35% of those cases include sustained findings and recommendations of discipline and or training. I'd also like to talk a little bit about transparency releases. In the month of August, we put out 1 video release. It was of an officer-involved shooting that took place on July 9th. And our agency and our staff that work on our transparency initiatives were able to get that release out on August 3rd, so well in advance of our timeline for release under the city's video release policy. Another more high-profile incident that has led to a lot of release of video in the media was the incident that occurred on North Avenue Beach at the end of August, on August the 28th, with a woman walking her dog that was stopped by an officer. Importantly, videos were released via FOIA, as well as the mayor's executive order as recently as today to both members of the media, as well as the complainant in that case. And I bring this up and highlight it to just, again, reiterate that COPA understands and recognizes that transparency, providing the public access to this information in as timely of a manner as possible, is a bedrock of public trust. And this is something that's really a critical focus in our agency to make sure that while investigating these instances in a timely and fair manner is, of course, our first mandate, being able to publicize the information and make sure that the Chicagoans who are interested have access to the information that is appropriate to share publicly, making sure that happens as quickly as possible is also critically important to the success of our agency and to the trust that we are seeking to build in the community that we serve. And so the last items that I wanted to report out on were our community engagement events. We had over 9 different community engagement events in August, and many of them were centered around the mayor's budget initiative. And I bring this up to say that we recognize the importance again of transparency at COPA, so much so that we are seeking and look forward to talking more at our upcoming budget hearing to be able to institute a freestanding transparency unit within our agency so that we really have the adequate staff and resources to make sure that all of these video releases don't just come out under the timeline they're required to, but come out as soon as practicable so that we can make sure that we are disseminating the information that the public so desperately needs in order, as I said before, to begin to build trust. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about the updates for August. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And when is your budget here? Do you know?
COPA's hearing is September 30th. Yes.
September 30th. Okay. Police board, that was a good reminder. We have our budget hearing on October 4th. And I think CPD, your budget hearing is also on October 4th. So members of the public, you are more than welcome to join, and you can get a little bit more detail than we provide here about some of the work that we each do. I will now call upon members of the public who signed up in advance to speak. I would ask all of the callers wait until your turn is called. Callers, you can unmute yourself by pressing *6. Our first speaker is Catherine Henchek. Everyone, we have a lot of speakers tonight, so we're going to adhere strictly to the 2 minutes. Our first speaker, Catherine Henchek. If you can press *6, please. And we are having some technical difficulties, so if this does not work, I will come back to you, Ms. Henchek. Our second speaker, Shabir Manji. Sabir Manchi. *6. If you have the ability to press *6. I can see that the callers are here.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, wonderful.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Shabir Manji. I'm a member for the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'm deeply concerned with some of the officers within the Chicago Police Department, namely those that participated in the Capitol Hill mob attack and those that defended the attack. Last summer, I saw you, as you all saw, thousands march across the street in this very city to demand police accountability. This was a benchmark demand. Knowing that these demands were met with violence, and now that the very enforcers of said violence participated in an attack on the Capitol, is deeply disturbing. Related, the racist gang known as the Proud Boys, who are named a terror organization by U.S. ally country Canada, have also infiltrated the Chicago Police Department with only mere suspension and internal investigation as a reaction. John Catanzara, the FOP president, immediately supported the insurrectionists and was promptly suspended. What does it say when the FOP president, who is an elected role that represents the members of the Chicago Police Department, supports terroristic activity? The handling of the Anthony Alvarez case, from Anthony's murder to the harassment of his family, to the takedown of his memorial, to the counter-protest staged by pro-FOP aldermen, shows that the police are not willing to serve and protect the people, but rather protect themselves. This is mob mentality, and I believe future generations will look at the sad chapter in Chicago history as another chapter of mafia-like rule, only this time they have badges and their crimes are awarded with pay raises. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to our first speaker, Catherine Henchek. If you can try *6 to unmute. yourself.
Good evening. I think it's working this time.
All right. Wonderful.
Great, thanks. My name is Catherine Henchek, and I'm a resident of Portage Park. And I'm here to speak in solidarity with the family of Anthony Alvarez. I've met Anthony's family through organizing in my community with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. And it's been now 5 months since Anthony was shot and killed by Officer Evan Solano. 5 months, and his family are still looking for answers. Anthony wasn't much older than my kids, and as a mother, I can't imagine the pain of losing a child. But that pain is compounded by the fact that his family cannot get answers as to what happened. Why was Anthony chased in the first place? Was there even a traffic stop, and if so, why? Why was he killed? We know who killed him, but no arrest has been made. We were glad to see that Officer Solano was stripped of his police powers, but wonder if that would have even happened had it not been for community pressure and his well-publicized road rage incident. So it's been 5 months now, and it's time for answers, and it's time for an arrest. During this time, Anthony's family have been harassed. Their memorial to him has been destroyed by police several times. They called it a traffic hazard. But if you've been down that street, you can tell it's not a traffic hazard. All it did was draw unwanted attention to Anthony's killing. And you can compare that to how quickly they repaired the police memorial on Montrose and Knox when that got vandalized. The family and his supporters in this community have been trying to keep Anthony's memory alive. We've seen his name disparaged on social media, but he was a son, a father, and a cousin, and he was a worker who was trying to provide for his 2-year-old daughter. We've held several rallies in the community to demand justice for his killing. We want the police to stop harassing his family. We want answers as to why he was chased and gunned down on March 31st. And we want the arrest of Officer Solano. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, Tiffany Smith. If you can press *6 to unmute, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Tiffany Smith, and I have been a proud second-generation resident of West Chatham on Beat 623 for over 40 years. The increase in gun violence in my community over the last 2 years, however, is giving me great pause. The total shootings involving victims has increased by 65% over the previous year on my beat alone, and up to 42% on our adjacent beat, which is 622, where, as mentioned before, we had the fatal shooting of a Simeon student at 83rd and Holland Drive. This community is part of the Chatham community and has historically served, particularly on this side of the expressway, as the breadbasket for that community and the business center for many Southside communities, such as Chatham and parts of Grand Crossing, Park Manor, Brainerd, and Auburn Gresham, and parts of Rose. Similarly, it's also the transportation hub for both.
Shabir got on. Now there's somebody else of a different group, of something totally different.
Sorry, can you mute?
I'm sorry. Yes, Miss Henchek, I think you're still unmuted.
Yeah. So as I was saying, it also serves as a transportation hub, transporting many of our working commuters and our high schoolers to and from school each day. And so I'm really concerned by what I'm starting to see in this community. The situation has deteriorated in our family to the point where I, along with other family members, are actually driving to pick up the high schoolers in our family each day to make sure they get home safely, because we don't trust the red line or their walk home from the red line. And I recognize, while it's a hardship, it's something we're fortunate enough to be able to do, but a lot of people are not able to do that. And this community used to be a community of choice. I don't know if I can say that anymore. And while I recognize the Herculean effort that the commander and the officers of the 6th District are putting forth, as well as the rollout of novel programs such as the NPI program, they do instill a bit of hope, but I also see that there are basics that we are missing. And one in particular I want to draw your attention to is our CAPS program. Our community organizer is not there. Apparently they resigned over the holiday. I've been hunting and I have yet to see a posting for the community organizer role in the 6th District. And this is a vital role for integrating the community with our CAPS officers to mobilize, to support the efforts that our public safety officers are doing, as well as to provide those wraparound services in conjunction with those DCOs.
I was going to just ask you to conclude. We're over the 2 minutes.
Just doing that. So my ask is that you give some attention to the need for our community outreach officer in the CAPS office, and that position be filled immediately. Given the heightened situation, there's no time to wait. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. First Deputy, would you like to respond?
trying to unmute. We'll have that looked into and take down the information and have that looked at.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Jasmine Salas. If you could press *6 to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my name is Jasmine Salas, and I'm here with the Chicago Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. I am here to speak about the horrific treatment faced by Nikita Brown as she walked her dog on North Avenue Beach, demand the firing of Officer Bruce Diker. Officer Diker, the white officer who harassed and physically assaulted Ms. Brown, has a long record of police complaints from Black women and Latinas, most of which involve excessive force and physical assault. He has proven himself incapable of serving and protecting the residents of Chicago, especially women of color. The night that Officer Diker attacked Ms. Brown, he acted in violation of Rules 10 and 11 from CPD's Code of Conduct, among many other violations of this Code of Conduct. But Rule 10 and 11 refer to inattention and incompetence in the performance of duty. A white man placing his hands on Black women shows Officer Diker's incompetence. Resorting to violence while doing your job as a public servant is unacceptable. And Officer Diker's decision to resort to physical assault shows he was incapable of handling the situation. This attack was 100% unnecessary and 100% avoidable. And COPA's reluctance to release his name was a decision to protect this officer, that shows your inattention and your duty as an agency that is supposed to support survivors of police brutality and seek justice. Instead, you have chosen to protect this officer. The fact that Officer Diker had 27 complaints against him from the community, but only 3 resulted in any disciplinary action reflects the incompetence of COPA, the mayor, and the entire police accountability system in Chicago. It shows that you all are not only incapable of protecting oppressed communities, but you all stand with cops who abuse women and endorse their actions. This is why we're going to empower the same communities that you all ignore to rise up and win community control of the police. There isn't a single job on earth that would allow their employees to act racist and sexist, attack innocent women, and still have a job.
Thank you, Ms. Salas. I'm sorry, we were over the 2 minutes. Our next speaker, Song, Han Kyo Song. If you can press *6 to unmute.
Good evening. My name is Hangyeol Song. I'm a resident of Chicago and a member of the Chicago Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. And I'm here to demand justice for Nikita Brown and justice for all women and survivors and victims of Chicago Police Department crimes, and for the firing of Officer Bruce Diker. Diker violated Rule 8 and Rule 9, among others, of the CPD's Rule of Conduct when he attacked Ms. Brown. Rule number 8 prohibits disrespect to and maltreatment of any person while on or off duty. Rule 9 prohibits engaging in unjustified verbal or physical maltreatment to any person while on or off duty. Both rules prohibit the use of any excessive force by any member, and these rules prohibit all brutality and physical or verbal maltreatment of any citizen while on or off duty, including any unjustified altercation of any kind. This isn't the first time Diker has broken Rules 8 and 9. Between 2000 and 2018, Diker has had at least 27 civilian complaints, only 3 of which were sustained and resulted in discipline. Diker has a demonstrated pattern of excessive force, CR 1087762, CR 1057480, CR 1022078, CR 1009264, TRR 96740 are all complaints of use of excessive force, 2 of them resulting in injury, all of them involving women, nearly all Black and Hispanic. With this demonstrated pattern of violence against women and excessive force, why was Officer Diker allowed to remain on the force? This includes the incident in 2008 when he was arrested for pointing his gun at someone during a domestic incident while off duty and verbally assaulting the victim. He was arrested on 3 counts of aggravated assault. Why wasn't he fired then? Every single survivor of male violence, every woman who watched the video of Miss Nikita Brown walking alone with her dog at night and being targeted by this man knows what a dangerous situation that was. We as women refuse to be terrorized and kept from public spaces, from walking alone at night, any beach, anywhere. And this body, everyone here in this meeting, could have prevented what happened on North Avenue Beach by firing Diker when he proved to have a pattern of excessive force and violence against women.
I'm sorry, Ms. Song, we were over the time. Our next speaker, Anna Santoyo. If you can press *6 to unmute, please. Anna Santoyo.
My name is Anna. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Anna, and I'm a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation and a mother in the Portage Park neighborhood where Anthony Alvarez was murdered by CPD officer Evan Solano. I'm here to speak in solidarity with the family of Anthony Alvarez, and I met Anthony's family by attending his memorial as a community member just a day or two after he was murdered by CPD. I was at the memorial that the family made to honor Anthony's life that was stolen by Evan Solano, who has now been stripped of his police powers. Later that night, and countless times after, the police threw away items, pictures, and flowers from that memorial. In looking at the bullet points that Chicago.gov has laid out about the job responsibilities that this police board has, the first is deciding disciplinary action. And I'm here to demand more disciplinary action for Evan Solano. Stripping someone of their police powers is not enough for taking someone's life. It's not enough for taking away someone's son, someone's father, cousin, and so much more. We are demanding justice, just as the family of Anthony Alvarez, who was 22 years old and a father of a 2-year-old, by the way. And I'm here to demand that Evan Solano be officially fired and arrested for the murder of Anthony Alvarez. The disciplinary action of stripping police powers from Evan Solano was done so because of the people and the movement demanding it. The family and community have held countless rallies and protests to demand answers on why Anthony was being chased in March of this year and still does not have those answers. So we're here to also let you know that the movement for Anthony Alvarez is not going anywhere. Another bullet point you have listed is holding monthly public meetings that provide an opportunity for all members of the public to present questions and comments to the board, including Superintendent David Brown and COPA. While this is not the only opportunity we have had to speak, we have made our own opportunities, but we are at a point where you need to actually hear us and hear the family members of Anthony Alvarez, who was murdered by one of your own police officers. Beyond that, the FOP and other pro-police forces and other people of this city have held counter-protests against the mourning family, and that is unacceptable and a shame that you think that you can ignore, leave a family with no answers, harass them by throwing away pieces of their memorial and more. The police board needs to act now on what you have listed as your job duties for the people of this city. Working class people are not.
I'm sorry, we're over the time. We've had a couple of callers now speak about the case, a couple of cases. Chief, if you would like to address kind of where you all are in this process.
Thank you, President Foreman. I appreciate that. Are you talking?
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, I'm not sure who's speaking, but whoever it is, I haven't called on you yet, so. Go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, President Foreman. I do appreciate the opportunity to talk about both of those pending investigations, both the investigation into the incident on North Avenue Beach that occurred on August 28th. That's an example of COPA moving in all due haste to ensure that the police department had in its ability and in its information, the information that it needed to make decisions about whether to remove the involved officer immediately from his duties on the streets, which was an action that was taken. I understand the frustration that may seem as if that's not enough, but that's just the beginning of the investigative process. That's a step that can be taken in any case where we find there is sufficient evidence to warrant it. And that step can happen while the investigation remains pending. With respect to that pending investigation, COPA is moving with all due haste to make sure that we can bring it to conclusion and provide full and detailed answers to a public that desperately wants them. However, we can't do that at the sacrifice of the investigative integrity of this case or against the rules that govern how misconduct investigations have to occur. There is a process that must be followed, and we are here to make sure that process is met. And we are happy to have additional conversations with any group member or individual from the community to further explain what that process looks like. With respect to the fatal shooting of Anthony Alvarez, again, when we had information sufficient to make a recommendation that the officer involved be removed and actually be stripped of his law enforcement powers, we did so. We did so within days of that shooting, and ultimately the superintendent concurred, and that is what took place. With any fatal officer involved shooting, all of those cases are referred for criminal review to external entities. And the Cook County State's Attorney's Office and the FBI were both notified of the facts of that case, and their investigations remain ongoing with respect to whether any criminal charges would ever be warranted in that matter. That's not for the purview of COPA necessarily or this police board. What COPA is squarely focused on is its investigative interest in the administrative investigation, whether that officer remains an officer after the actions that it took Anthony Alvarez's life. With respect to that investigation, as we have done on many times before, such as in another high-profile incident involving a shooting on the CTA Red Line, COPA has within its ability the ability to close that investigation in as fast of a timeline as the facts and the evidence will allow. That is what we are seeking to do with Anthony Alvarez's case. And as soon as we are able to make public the fact that we have first closed that investigation and then ultimately what that investigation shows, we will make sure that that happens, that the public has that information. But while any investigation remains pending, we are not in a position to comment on the outcome. I can just simply come here, hear what people are interested in knowing, hear what answers people are looking for, and make the assurance that we are moving with all due haste to conclude both of those investigations and bring answers to the public.
Thank you, Chief. I can't remember if I already called this speaker, Grace Patino. Grace Patino.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hi. I'm here to voice my support of Nikita Brown and call for the firing of the officer in question and to tell my own story. So when I was in college, a friend and I were leaving a party and that CPD had broken up. As we were walking to the train, a squad car pulled up to us and they spotlighted us on the street. A white male officer leaned out the window and called us fucking sluts. We were scared and didn't know what to do. We'd been drinking underage. We just kept our heads down and walked towards the train. Luckily, the cruiser drove off, but sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we had been walking alone at night, or if we had not been white and clearly college students, or if we were in a more remote location. What happened to Ms. Brown is not just a one-off incident, but an indicator of a larger problem CPD has with violence against women in Chicago. I mean, there are multiple studies indicating that police nationwide have a higher rate of domestic abuse within their homes. And this, of course, was another indicator of the oppression Black and brown communities face in Chicago. And I just want to say that I think it's ridiculous that Ms. Brown had to go through this traumatic event with this male officer, only to have to speak face-to-face with another officer in her home hours just after to make a report. I mean, can you imagine for like a rape survivor? And we do know that CPD has carried out sex crimes against citizens, looking at the case of Trina Townsend or the story of Mark Clemens. But can you imagine someone going through an experience like that and then having to report it to the very agency that just committed the crime? That's a non-starter for me personally. And that's why we need to implement ECPS so that when we have issues with officers in our neighborhoods, we can go direct to directly elected representatives to tell them without CPD present, because that is not a safe space and that is not a safe space for women. That's also why we need the citywide commission to be directly elected, because we need to have community control over the police. The police are not going to police themselves, and mayor after mayor has made it clear that they won't do it either. This officer should be fired. The bottom floor for firing an officer should not be murder. Let's prevent another Jason Van Dyke or Dante Servant situation when we still can.
In closing, when you are watching the video again, as I know you will be, try to imagine if that was your daughter, your wife, your sister, your mother, your friend, and what wouldn't you do to protect her?
Thank you. Our next speaker, Amanda Jenkins, but I do not see you dialed in. Amanda Jenkins. Next speaker, Lisa Davis. You can press *6, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Lisa Davis. I'm from the 4th District. I am a Beat 412 facilitator. I had two topics to talk about today. The first one is about CAP's needs. Our organizer, our community organizer, Antonio Salazar, retired in November of last year. We have not yet had a dedicated community organizer. As was mentioned before, our community organizers help us mobilize the community. People have more visibility to the crimes because of COVID and a number of these apps that are available. And they are very concerned about what's being seen in our communities. So we need someone to address that. Also, as a Beat facilitator, I have a co-facilitator for Beat 412. That individual is still in the process of being finalized. He was identified back last year, but he has not been finalized and available as a resource for me to use as a backup. So I need help with that. And we need help as a community so that we can do what we need to do for my beat. Finally, we have an issue with traffic accidents from 79th to 95th and Stony Island. We're seeing reckless behavior. We're seeing speeding, people drag racing, running red lights. This resulted in damage to buildings, hospitalization of people. We're in an older community where I live. I'm in Avalon. So we really need to address this because this is the main mode of transportation for us, Stony Island. And also it connects to I-94, I-90 as well. People need to be secure in moving around the city. And that's our main street to do that. So we're asking for a solution with the community and the police.
Thank you very much. So First Deputy, we had another question about some caps and so if you can also look into that district as well, we would appreciate that.
Definitely will.
Thank you. And as well as the traffic. We know that we're going to have communities organized to win, and traffic is one of the things that they've continued to talk about. Our next speaker is Gail Salisbury. Gail Salisbury. If you can press *6, please.
Hi, this is Gail Salisbury. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I just want to state that I believe not only in mentioning when things are bad, but I also want to mention when things are going well. So at this time, I would like to report that things are better and people are not sitting in the alley as much. This could be due to the cooler temps and the rain, but the change may also be a result of the communication with Mr. Lynch from the Gift of Hope. Mr. Lynch and I have been in close communication to eliminate the loitering in the alley around the building of the Gift of Hope and the parking lot. They have placed the chains across the parking lot to block the entrance, and more security will be in place as Malcolm X begins the build out of their satellite office on the lower level of the Gift of Hope, which is located at 7936 South Cottage Grove. This is a welcome entity to our neighborhood, and I thank you for all of the attention that you have provided, and I pray that we can look for brighter days where we can place our attention elsewhere, maybe even do something that we haven't been able to do in a long time, which is relax and enjoy the fruits of our labor. I thank you very much. Be well and stay safe.
Thank you. Next speaker, June Norfleet. You can press *6, Ms. Norfleet. Norfleet, *6. All right, next speaker. Hello?
Do you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good evening. Good evening to my fellow citizens and our public servants. First of all, let me say, Copa, you seem that you'll have your work cut out for you attending to the case of Officer Diker. That is indeed a very sad and troubling situation. But this evening, I want to talk to you about sanctuary. For the last 3 years, I have awakened to the sound of birds greeting and calling and living in the trees near my house. And upon careful observation, I see that there are birds of all types and colors from various corners of the globe, right here in Chicago. And they come to my backyard because it is a sanctuary. I support them with planting the appropriate flowers so they can enjoy the sanctuary. A sanctuary is a place that is set aside to protect and edify life. However, I do not believe that excessive alcohol, drugs, drug paraphernalia, or processed foods is supportive of human life, nor do death-driven gangs, cartels, trash, and debris uplift our community. I opine no, they do not. In September, over 30 gas stations, primarily on the west and south side of our city, were temporarily closed due to violation. A joint venture of CPD, Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, and Department of Health and other agencies cited these gas stations for these violations. One gas station had over 74 shootings on its very property. And recently, a group of Inglewood residents voted down a request for a new gas station at 66 and Hofstra because they cited such gas stations are a catalyst and a contributor to rampant trash, loud music, drug sales, and loitering when left unchecked. We don't like this vacant lot, they said, but we sure are better off than what they are proposing to bring here.
I'm sorry, Ms. Norfleet, we're out of time. Our next speaker, Mr. Matt Brandon. Matt Brandon, if you could press *6. All right, next speaker, Jennifer Edwards. Press *6, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Okay, good evening, everybody. This afternoon, we conducted one of our Operation Neighborhood Safety visits to a Southside gas station in the 3rd District. We are present with the 3rd District officers, often tactical and DCO officers. Our purpose is to stand with the community members to help in stopping carjackings while residents gas up their cars. We also observe the areas and conditions of the inside and outside of the business. We visited numerous stations in the area. The city's task force has closed recently in the process of combating crime in the city designated Zone 3 area. During these visits, we often find unclean areas, signs and items covering windows, illegal paraphernalia, vaping products, stimulant, coffee drinks, cigarettes sold without legal stamps, and structural building problems and more. We've also visited the stations with city departments on business walks, and written violations have been given to the owners and stations subsequently closed. We are in support of the city shutting down the stations as often as necessary, as these businesses are disrespectful to the communities that they reside in and draw crime elements that promote the problems we are having in our neighborhoods. By no means is the city of Chicago discriminating against the owners of the gas stations, but requiring compliance on the business level as others are required to operate. There is no reason that this type of behavior should be allowed. We stand with the city of Chicago in curtailing this illegal activity. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, this is not the first Tiffany Smith who spoke earlier, but if we have another Tiffany Smith on the call this evening.
Actually, it's one and the same, so you can go to the next person.
Okay, all right, wonderful. Next speaker, Zedric Braden. If you can press star
Good
6.
evening. Good evening. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I'm going to make it very, very short. I'm a resident of the 3rd District for many, many years, and I just want to commend the police department on the District Coordination Officer Program, DCO, that is bringing swift results. We have a lot more work to be done, 71st, 75th, 79th, but I just want to say we're just really appreciative of that program. And I'm very, very happy to hear the report of the first deputy this evening. Thank you again, and continue to do the wonderful job that you do.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Anna McLaughlin. If you can press star 6. Anna McLaughlin.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Good evening. My name is Anna McColgan. I'm a resident of Chicago and a member of the Chicago Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. I'm here tonight to demand justice for Nikita Brown and all survivors of police crimes like what Ms. Brown experienced, and to demand that the police board fire Officer Bruce Diker, who has a clear pattern of violating Black and Latina women's constitutional and human rights and the rights of women generally. Not only did Officer Diker violate Chicago law in his mistreatment of Ms. Brown, but also constitutional law and human rights law. To be specific, though, he violated rules number 12 and number 14 in the CPD rules and regulations for officer conduct. Rule number 12 covers failure to wear the uniform as prescribed. In December of 2020, a federal judge told CPD that they must wear a surgical mask or face covering whenever it is not possible for them to maintain 6 feet distance between them and the person they're interacting with. The video clearly shows Officer Diker maskless and insisting on violating Ms. Brown's social distance, putting her health at risk at a time when no one knows how many CPD officers have been vaccinated. We are still in the midst of a global pandemic. Where is this officer's mask? Rule number 14 covers making a false written or oral report. Officer Diker claimed on the record that Ms. Brown was cursing at him. All video evidence shows that Ms. Brown asserted her right to her personal space, made requests for physical distance, told the officer to get off of her when he put his hands on her. Not once does it show Ms. Brown cursing at the officer. This makes Officer Diker's report false, adding yet another way he violated CPD's code of conduct. With this many type of violations in one incident on top of his history and pattern of misconduct, how can Officer Diker not be fired? I'm glad COPA has released the videos related to this incident, but transparency is not enough. We see the violence of CPD again and again. We see violence against Black and brown women again and again. But what we need to see is justice, which this body has consistently refused to bring, which is why we continue to fight for community control of the police. I urge this board to send a message to the women of Chicago that police cannot violate them with impunity, that the safety and well-being of women matters in this city. You must fire Bruce Diker. That is all.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Krista Noel. Krista Noel, press star 6.
Happy birthday again. Hello, everyone. Bruce Dummer. Yes, he violated rule number 1, which is violating any law or ordinance, any law. We clearly saw him violate First Amendment by trying to snatching the phone out of her hand while she was trying to record him or even possibly make a telephone call to her mother. He had no right to touch her. Rule number 2, any action or conduct which impedes the department's efforts to achieve its policy and goals and or bring discredit upon the department. Rule number 3, any failure to promote the department's efforts to implement its policy or accomplish its goals. The Chicago Police Department is under a consent decree. Anything like what happened to Nikita is a violation of rules 1, 2, and 3. It's not just that he should be administratively let go, fired, terminated. He should also be, and I hope Kim Fox or somebody from Kim Fox's office is listening, he should also be charged with aggravated battery. There was nothing in Nikita's body language that was threatening to him. As a matter of fact, he was more threatening to her than she was to him. Now, Andrea, I hear you, blah, blah, blah. Even the mayor said that you needed to get rid of this one quickly. There's nothing more really that you need to know or see. It took me about half an hour to read through the rules. Okay, you all should know them by heart. He needs to go. He needs to go now, and you need to send it to the state's attorney's office. I expect Bruce Dummer to be out of the Chicago Police Department as soon as possible, which should be by next month.
Thank you, Ms. Noel. Our next speaker, Flora Suttle. Ms. Suttle, if you can press *6.
Good evening. My name is Flora Suttle. My son, Derek Suttle, was fatally shot multiple times by an off-duty Chicago police officer on February 11th, 2012. There is no statute of limitations on a homicide. Pursuant to Section 6.1.d of the collective bargaining unit, COPA must seek approval from the superintendent to reopen a concluded or closed investigation more than 5 years from the date the complaint register was issued. This is an administrative issue. Superintendent, can you explain to me the process for getting a closed or concluded investigation to the state attorney's office, that is Kim Fox's office, for review? Now, the interim chief of COPA is Andrea Kirsten. According to the COPA rules and regulations, the process for reopening any closed or concluded investigation, where is that? Applies to the following circumstances. She has to find evidence that was materially affected, evidence of materially affected results of the investigation. She has to find if there's a gross miscarriage of justice, and then you can reopen it following the review or audit of an investigation by the Deputy Inspector General for Public Safety. The Deputy Inspector General for Public Safety recommends that the investigation be reopened. The Deputy Inspector General is Deborah Wiesberg, and she recommended to COPA that my son Derek Suttle's case investigation be reopened. On July 14th, my family met with COPA and her information officer. We discussed the conclusions. They declined to reopen the investigation. We appreciate your quick response to this matter, but we don't agree with you, with your findings or your conclusions, but we do respect that. And the other question is, do you have...
Ms. Suttle, we're over the 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm finished.
Is this something that I know that we've had this conversation a few times. Is this something that we can try to follow up with offline? I believe, COPA made their recommendation.
The Inspector General made her recommendation, and so of course we can do it offline with the superintendent.
Okay.
I spoke with the head of COPA. I spoke with the head of the Inspector
What
General.
I'll do is, Ms. Suttle, what I'll do is I'll try to get Max to coordinate a conversation to ensure that we can try to get you some answers that you seek. So I don't want to take up the rest of this meeting with this. I know this is an ongoing situation. So I'll ask Max to follow up with you to ensure that we can arrange a meeting for you. Our next speaker, Mr. George Blakemore. Mr. Blakemore, if you're there, if you can press *6. Our final speaker is Mr. Robert Moore. Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore?
Well, hello. I'm a friend of Robert Moore, but he asked to call because he had trouble with his phone. I just wanted to let you guys know that for the record, I'm Gordon Wayne Watts in Florida. You can Google Gordon Wayne Watts for your caller ID, Gordon Wayne Watts. Robert J. Moore asked me to call into this number to see if the phone worked. And I don't know beyond that what he has to say, but you guys know Robert Moore because he's a regular speaker. He's a personal friend of mine. I live in Plant City, Florida, and used to live in Lakeland. So I wish I could say anything beyond that because I could certainly offer an opinion, but I don't have very many dealings with your police department. But I just wanted to let you guys know that was the purpose of me calling in.
All right. I attended Florida A&M University. I got a lot of good friends down there in Plant City.
Hey, if you want, listen, you don't have to, but if you guys want to catch up to see who it was that called, Gordon, Gordon, Wayne, Wayne, Watts. I'm currently suing 10 judges for civil rights in your area, and the federal court still has the case pending. So although I'm not Robert Moore, I have some things in common with him as far as our legal views and the fact that we're both activists. And I'm glad that you had a good experience. I'm glad that you had a good experience in my state of Florida. Things are going downhill. And with you, my Lakeland used to be blocking people's 911. And so your police department is not the only one that has done some crazy things. So all I can say is that I wish I could say more, but I wish you guys well, both your citizens and your police, to get along from one another. And so for the record, I'm Gordon Wayne Watts in Plant City currently, was in Lakeland. And I'm just letting you guys know that the number that you gave Robert and that he gave me with the PIN codes worked. And apparently he was unable to get through because he's homeless and he lives behind something and he uses internet from Wi-Fi and stuff like that. So I think that's why he asked me to call. So you guys know Robert.
Yes.
I hope that you guys can get in touch with him and that y'all can help him get his feedback. And beyond that, I wish I could do anything to help you guys. But me suing 10 judges in your state is something which is pretty extraordinary. And they're bad judges, but I'm not trying to do anything bad. And me doing that alone is pretty extraordinary. And so I hope that it helps things out and does so without offending the judges that I'm suing for civil rights. Suing judges, by the way, is real hard. But my lawsuit has not been tossed out. So I wish you guys the best of luck. And I thank you for letting me on. Is there anything that you want me to give my number or anything like that, or am I good?
No. This is on CAN TV. The whole city of Chicago will have your phone number. We don't want to do that right now. So thank you much. At this time, all people who signed up in advance to speak have been called, but I do want to take one little personal opportunity to speak. I had a pretty bad bicycle accident a couple of weeks ago, and I was in real bad shape. And 3rd District Police Officer Michael McGee showed up, pulled up in the squad car. I'm laying on the side of the road. He pulled up, recognized me, called for the ambulance, got me over to the emergency room, called my wife, got me in a little bit of trouble with my wife, but called my wife. Got me all checked into the hospital, followed up with me at the hospital, followed up with me a couple of times afterwards. And man, I'm really appreciative of the work that he did. He kind of went above and beyond what I kind of feel like, what he had to do. And so I was a firsthand witness of kind of the work that CPD does. And so First Deputy, I wrote a complimentary letter, but I just wanted to publicly acknowledge 3rd District Officer Michael McGee. He came to my rescue, and I was in a real bad place. And so thank you very much. At this time, so all members have spoken. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Paula Wolf, I so move.
Is there a second?
Board Member Flores, I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you very much. Everyone be safe. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye. Happy
Good night.
birthday.
Thank you.